Hello and welcome. My name is Rashim Mogha and I'm your host for this Empowered Women of the World podcast, a podcast where we talk about technology, leadership, and success. This is season 2. Now, last week I spoke at ASU GS Week Summit in San Diego. I was so excited to get back to being in a conference, in person, live on stage and speaking to a live audience. And I must say, I have missed the stage. Now at ASU GSV, I got an opportunity to talk to the attendees about what businesses need to thrive. There were a lot of upcoming CEOs, a lot of startups, and CEOs of enterprises. One of the common themes that emerged in those conversations is, the fact that the companies are now focusing on having a culture of diversity. Building a diverse culture is top of mind for all leaders, and they're looking for actionable, proven steps so that they can move beyond lip service. So today, I'm so excited to have a special guest on our show today who can help us understand these proven steps and how we can move beyond lip service. I'm so excited to welcome Lissa Minkin, VP of Talent People and Workplace at Tile. Now, Lissa has been instrumental in creating a purpose-driven culture at Tile that has resulted in high employee engagement and strong company performance. Lissa, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I love your enthusiasm. It's wonderful to be here.
Lissa, I remember for the first conversation you and I had when we deep dived into the whole concept of purpose-driven culture. And as you spoke about the culture at Tile, I remember saying, we need to share this with the world. We need to share this with the eWOW audience. So let's talk about the culture at Tile.
Sure, I would love to. It's what I love to talk about every day, all day. It's great. So I've been at Tile for about 3.5 years, and when I joined back then, it was a very different company. And at the time, it was much more of a tops-down, command and control style company. And I knew for the kind of work that we were doing and the kind of the knowledge workers that we had and the what we were trying to drive at the company, really ownership and people really feeling like they had a stake in the success of the business, we really had to change that. And so what I developed is something that I call our Tile culture stack. And that culture stack over the past 3.5 years is really what we built all of our programs and processes around. And the culture stack is really designed to drive high engagement with all of our people. So meaning that, they're willing to recommend Tile as a great place to work. They're willing to give discretionary effort in terms of what they're trying to drive for Tile. And ultimately, they're going to stay and they're going to help us to meet the mission of the company because that's critical. Way back in the day when I worked at eBay, the thinking around there was, you can't execute on long-term strategy if you don't have long-term players. And that always really stuck with me. So a very, very important part of what we're trying to drive.
So, you know what? It's easy to say for organizations to say we want to build a culture of mutual respect. We want, empathetic leaders. You and I both know how hard it is to build that culture, and you have built it ground up at Tile. So how were you able to move to that culture? How were you able to build that culture at Tile?
Yeah, so this is great because this gives me a chance to go in more depth on the culture stack. So the way that we thought about this is I call it the culture stack because of course everybody knows the term tech stack, right? So that's essentially, how you build your technology. And it's the exact same way with culture. There's certain things that need to come before others, right? And so our foundation, which is of course the first thing that we think about, is psychological safety. So we want to make sure that everybody feels safe in our environment, they feel like they can be their authentic self, They know we care about their strengths, and we want them to use their strengths every day in terms of how they solve problems and also how they grow their careers. And the sort of the other side of that coin of foundation is empathic leadership, as you had mentioned before. And so we teach our leaders to have empathy. We teach our leaders to not focus on themselves, but focus on their teams. And if their teams are successful, they'll be successful and the whole company rises. So those two things are our foundation. And then on top of that on the stack is what we call the heart of our company. And that's made up of three key things. So the first one is our tile values. So our tile values were actually created by all of us around what we really value about being there. So it wasn't something that comes from on high that says you will value the following. It was much more about what do you value about being here. And then we did a process where we asked all employees who wanted to participate, and then we had a team of culture carriers that helped to refine it, and then exec staff refined it further, and then we sent it back to the culture carriers and the teams. So it was really a process where everybody got involved, and so we then created values that have been a part of our culture for the past 2 years, and they're really the how to our what. And they're woven into everything that we do at Tile. So how we hire, how we make decisions around performance, we have values awards. They're really very much living and breathing in our culture and not just posters on the wall. Then the second part of the heart are our manager behaviors. So this is something that we take super seriously. Again, there's two sides to the same coin. So one is what managers should be doing to make sure that they're meeting our high expectations for leadership. And the second is we want individual contributors to understand what they should expect from their managers. And if they're not getting it, they should ask. So we have 6 behaviors that we talk about at Tile, and we make sure that they're emphasized, in our regular people leader circles, and we have opportunities for managers to get upward feedback 4 times a year, and we just really make sure that that is alive and well in our culture, because good management is going to bring the whole company up. And then the third piece is individual strengths. So we really want to understand, what gives you energy. When we're talking about strengths, we're talking about energy. So what are those things that you get excited about? When you wake up in the morning and you think, oh, I can't wait to do it. And when you're doing it, you're in flow. And when you're done, you feel fulfilled. So those are the things that we want to then understand. And then managers help align those for success. So success for company impact against your goals, and then also success against your own development, because that's where you're going to grow the fastest. Where you're already strong, you're going to continue to develop and grow. So if we're doing all of those things well, we should have highly engaged people. And over the past 3.5 years, we've moved our engagement score almost 40 points positively. So I'm super excited about it. And we're in the middle of an engagement survey right now. And I can't wait to see where we land, because we're higher than we've ever been. I don't want to jinx myself by giving the number, but hopefully by the end, we'll be at a spot that I've been hoping for the past 3.5 years. So we're in good stead.
Wow. And what I like about this, Lissa, is that this has been a journey for the entire organization, right? It's not something that you created this stack and overnight people were engaged. It takes time to build that culture. And it also takes time as you are hiring new talent. Some of them come from other companies that might have a very different culture. How do you make sure that they embrace that culture and truly live the culture of Tile, right?
Yes, that is a wonderful question. I mean, first of all, to your point, it doesn't happen overnight. And it's definitely a process. And I feel very lucky, that my CEO, CJ Prober, cares about this as much as I do. And we make sure that anybody who has joined the leadership team also really understands what we're driving for. And so it's very, very important that the leadership is aligned. Also very important that, the people managers and the individual contributors, that we're, bringing on at the company, or people that have been long timers at Tile, because we do have a lot, are a part of it. So it's really about explaining the why. Why are we doing this? What are the ways that we're supporting it? So with each one of those layers of the stack, we have programming that goes with it. So ways that we teach people how to understand it, ways that we help them to understand exactly what our values mean and how to use them to make good decisions. So, they're alive. They're not just posters on the wall. They're really woven into everything that we do, which also includes how we hire. So we make sure that when we're chatting with candidates, I ask them, what does a great culture mean to them? What are they looking for? What motivates them? What are their strengths? So all of the things that we're solving for, I make sure is part of a conversation, certainly when I'm doing the interviewing. And then we have a set of questions that we built out that align with all of our values that we ask our folks to utilize when they're interviewing, because we really want to make sure that people are simpatico. It doesn't mean they have to be cookie cutter. By no means. I mean, we really want people to be who they are. That's part of psychological safety, be your authentic self. But we really want to make sure that we have a culture that is very respectful and is open and inclusive. Back to what you were saying before, that's what we're solving for. And so it's a very important part of how we make decisions about who's going to be successful at Tile.
Yeah. So, Lissa, I'm curious, how did you support your individual contributors or your managers in this journey? Telling them these are our values and is one thing, but
yep.
How did you enable and empower them to get to the place where they are? And part of this requires the whole aspect of continuous learning and understanding that leaders do not know everything, and accepting that. How hard was that process?
Well, I mean, when we started this 3.5 years ago, we were really in a tough spot. And I addressed that directly. I stood up in front of the entire company and I said, look, we know this, we're not doing this right now. And we're going to change it. And let me tell you exactly what we're going to do. And I said, and I know right now you have absolutely no reason to believe me, that this stuff is going to change. But I can tell you that, I've done this before. I know it can work. And I said, and part of what I need to do is help us build trust. And I said, and I want you to hold me accountable. I said, my say-do ratio should be really good, right? So if I say I'm going to do something, I should do it. And if I'm not doing what I say I'm going to do, I want you to tell me. I want you to hold me accountable. And I hope in time you'll start to see that I'm very serious about this. And, we're going to be working on this culture and making our company a great place to work, which, by the way, we are just on the Great Place to Work again this year. So I'm really happy 2 years in a row. We've been noticed for small and medium business in the US and also for small and medium business in the Bay Area. So I think you've got to be honest with people. That's the first way to start building trust. And then, as I said, we have constantly been beating this drum around our values and around what we care about in our culture and the way that we treat people. And, it's literally about that say-do ratio. Like, we say we're going to do this and then we actually do it. And I think both myself and our CEO and our other leaders, and managers, I really think they walk the walk. I think they're vulnerable. I think they're open. I think when people make mistakes, they admit them. And we have done everything that we can to really create this flat, open, transparent culture in which, people feel respected and they can thrive. And it's really, really important to us. We talk about it every single day.
That's awesome, because sometimes, and I've worked in large organizations and I've worked in startups as well. Sometimes empathy and being an empathetic leader is confused with not holding your team accountable, and they're two different things. And they it's not one or another. It's not that if you're an empathetic leader, you will never hold your team accountable. On the other hand, it's almost the opposite. It's if you're an empathetic leader, you'll find a way to hold your team accountable, and that goes hand in hand. So so it's not mutually exclusive, and that's the hardest conversation I think I've had with leaders, telling them that it's okay to be empathetic and still hold people accountable.
Yes, and we actually have a phrase that we use a lot: direct with respect. So we talk about that a lot at Tile, in terms of the way that we give feedback, in terms of the way that we do hold people accountable. It's really, really important. And we just started doing some training around this. We're doing skillful disagreement training. We're doing some training around difficult conversations. And really the theme is, you must be direct. You must help people, by telling them exactly where they're really doing a terrific job and they should keep doing it, and where they're struggling. And we want to support and help them to get better. You're not helping them if you don't tell them. In fact, you're hurting them. So that's why we really want to be direct. And then we're a respectful culture. We respect individuals. We respect where they're coming from, their backgrounds, their point of view. So we want to be direct with respect. And we really think things land better that way. And, to your point, you can do both at the same time by doing that.
I think I'm going to use that phrase often now, Lissa. Direct with respect.
It is catching on. That's great.
Yeah. I spent some years at AWS, and we had a leadership principle called disagree and commit. And I use that often. And I think direct with respect is going to be another one of those phrases that I'm going to start using often.
Cool.
So Lissa, how are you measuring success? I know here you are where you can measure employee engagement and everything, 3.5 years of launching this program. I'm also curious to understand from you how you measured your success 6 months into the program, for example. How did you know that you were on the right track? And most importantly, even in your heart, if you knew that you were on the right track, how did you continue to build that trust with your leader that you were on the right track, even though there might not have been enough data points to show that?
Yeah, we did actually, in the first 6 months, we had a pretty big rise in terms of where we started and where we were 6 months later. So it was sort of astounding. I think we went up, maybe 17 points. I mean, it was something really dramatic.
Wow.
I can certainly, it was really dramatic because it was such a big change for the company in terms of the way that we were leading and managing. So I knew we were on the right track from there. And then, again, luckily I had such terrific leaders to work with, on the leadership team, people that really care. And that was actually one of the reasons why I decided to join Tile in the beginning, is because people really loved the product. They really loved the brand. They liked what we were doing, in terms of helping people to be able to find whatever matters to them and making their lives better every day around those kinds of things. So there was a lot of passion, around wanting to create a wonderful place to work. And so we just kept going. And the other thing that we do that I think is really terrific is, we're always very transparent. So, when every 6 months we're measuring this, and then we always at an all hands, we share, like, here's where we're doing great. Here's where we still have issues. Here's what the company's going to do to address it. All of our teams have their meetings and they choose one thing that they want to work on their team. And then, once a year, we do a values check in real time. And we usually do it at the end of the year, kind of around Christmas time, holiday time, when everybody is together. And this past year, of course, we had to do it on Zoom. But, in real time, we have people vote about how are we living our values as a company. And I think that shows our employees we're willing to be vulnerable. We're willing to take the hard knocks if they want to give us as leaders, advice or feedback in real time. And we're not afraid of that. We see it as wonderful, when somebody tells us that there's something that we could be doing better, because we want the best experience we can have. So we're always holding ourselves accountable. We're always measuring, we're looking at how quickly are we hiring, we're looking at attrition, we're looking at levels of engagement, we're looking at internal mobility, are people moving into different roles at the company and continuing to grow their careers at Tile. So, there's a lot of things that we keep an eye on to make sure that the culture's healthy and it's the place we all want to work.
And you know what, Lissa, that speaks loads about psychological safety as well. For you to be able to ask that question openly in person to the entire organization, are we living our values? And people not being afraid to say yes or no speaks volumes about the culture that you have built and the psychological safety that you have been able to provide the employees.
Yep, I'm really proud of it. It's truly been, besides raising my son, it's been the biggest focus of my life, for the past 3.5 years, is to really create a fantastic culture at this company, and make this a place where people want to build their careers. And it's been very rewarding. I'm very, very, very happy in this role.
Hats off, kudos, congratulations on building this. I know it's not easy to do it. 3.5 years might seem like lifetime to some people, but I know how much hard work would have gone into this, and to see those astounding results within 6 months is amazing.
Thank you.
Now I want to flip the conversation a little bit, Lissa. We talked about organizations, we talked about, how we should think about culture. But as you know, eWOW family is a lot about individuals, women and their allies who are sometimes still trying to define what success means to them. So what advice do you have for our eWOW family members who are working at organizations where they feel that their values do not align with the company culture?
Yeah, that is so tough. And, it really, here's kind of how I think about it. And this is personal for me. So I really feel strongly that I can't work at a place that doesn't align with my personal values. And I realize that comes from a place of privilege in some ways. Not everybody is in Silicon Valley, where we have so much choice, in terms of where we can work and, finding places that really align with us. So there's that caveat. But I do think you have to look deep within yourself, and decide if this is a place where you really feel like you can be your authentic self and you want to give that kind of energy, because the work that we do every day is really meaningful, and especially for women. Oftentimes, women are the main breadwinner, and they're also taking care of their family, and this is a very serious matter. And so I think it's really important to sort of do that self-check and decide if it really works for you. If you're in a situation where you have choice, try to find that place that's going to really work for you. And if you're in a situation where you don't have a lot of choices, I think you have to do everything that you can to be true to yourself and make sure that you're doing things that align with your personal values, and you can make it work in that place of work in a way that you can feel good about what you're doing every day. Otherwise, I think it's kind of soul killing, and that's really tough to deal with.
Yeah, and then after a certain point, you're not living up to the expectations that you set up for yourself, and you're not succeeding then.
Right.
And I often say this, I think that holistic framework of what your support looks like is so important, because I see so many women stuck in the jobs that they do not like, in the companies where the values do not align, just for a paycheck, right? And if you do not build out your financial support system in such a way, and do not start that planning earlier on in your life, or have the backups that you need so that you can make right decisions when the time comes, then you're stuck in that place. So
right.
So that's what I often say. But thank you for validating that for our audience.
Sure.
Well,
yeah, I think it's important to find out what you love and apply that, wherever you are, and really be true to yourself.
And really, where you do that work does not matter. It's as long as you know what your success means to you and how you can get there. You might find 20 different paths to get to that end destination where you want to be, but it's up to you to keep exploring those new paths, right?
Yes,
and
absolutely.
that is important.
Yes.
Well,
absolutely.
thank you, Lissa, for sharing your insights with us today. This was the high point of my day today. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It was delightful.
And congratulations on all the amazing work that you've been doing at Tile. I am so grateful for the partnership that we have with Tile as eWOW family, and I look forward to the continued partnership.
Great, we do too. We've loved partnering with eWOW. It's been great. Both me and Josie are so grateful to you. Thank you.
Thank you. And today's resource for you, our dear audience, is the link to the leadership affirmations that you can use to stay focused. The link is in the show notes, so please make sure to get it from there. As always, thank you for joining me today, and thank you for loving, liking, supporting, and sharing the podcast. Remember, sharing is caring. I look forward to seeing you again in our next podcast. Until then, keep empowering the world.